Welcome to the final part of the Boeing 757 video build. Let's start with the landing gear. First, I cleaned up the parts and drilled holes where required. I wanted to add bushings because they appear to be very prominent on the landing gear. To create them, I had to thin down plastic rod to 0.7 mm. That was the easy part. Like a sausage, they were cut and then glued in place. Once the glue dried, I drilled a hole inside the bushing to make it look real. Quite some work, but worth the effort. Next up were the hydraulic lines. I used 0.2 mm copper wire. The stuff is very flexible, and to get it into shape and place, I needed to fix it on Tamiya tape. I took 4 next to each other and fixed them on the tape before applying brackets and super glue. This results in a hydraulic string made of 4 lines. This is way easier to place inside the strut, and also bending is simpler. I tried to make it as close as possible to the real thing. Next were the lights on the nose gear assembly. I drilled holes in the plastic pieces. Then I used my trusty circle cutter and cut some adhesive aluminum foil. These were placed in the drilled hole. I used a rounded plastic rod to make it conform to the cavity. Thereafter I filled them with clear resin. enhanced some more landing parts, cause the injection molding makes some details impossible. Some of these little modifications do not require much work. After installing all the parts, one masked the lights, painted it black, masked it again, and painted it in Boeing grey. Then I was heading back to the main landing gears. These are now also painted, and I used a fine hand brush to get some Rival 90 silver on the hydraulic lines. Once this was done, I started to wash the landing gear. I used a mixture of Tamiya panel line accent color black and gray. I wanted to give it a little bit of dark wash, but definitely not too much. An all black wash would have looked very dirty and dark, and these LL planes were not so dirty. As usual, all shock struts were painted with Molotov liquid chrome. Let's now do the wheels. I bought some resin wheels from a Russian company. They are looking much better than the kit's wheels, although not perfect. I cleaned them and primed the wheels with Mr. Surfacer. After that, the rim got a shot of Boeing grey. Once the paint was dry, I used the Tamiya panel line washing for the rim. I gave it 3 applications to make sure it is black. This technique makes it much easier to paint a perfect round tire without masks, as long as the rim has a sharp edge. After letting it dry, I used Tamiya rubber black with a normal brush. Next step is the brake assembly. The fit was great, and I could go on to the next big thing, which was weathering. This time it was a challenge. I always try to keep it as real as possible. LL actually keeps their planes more or less clean, although colors faded and the whole airplane at some point did not look shiny. I tried to recreate this type of finish and now I had to apply a very light weathering. I used Ammo MIG wash. The stuff is acrylic and it does not react with the paint finish. Tamiya, for example, reacts with the paint, that's why I used this stuff. I was really happy with the way this stuff works. As you can see, the first layer did not stay in the panel lines, so I got one more application and that did the trick. After that I used the Tamiya weathering set for some streaks which usually show up under the window seals. I wanted it to look only very light, so I rubbed quite a lot to achieve this. Sometimes I rubbed off too much, so I had to redo it until it looked right. I would always suggest to take your time with weathering, cause it can also ruin your model quickly. Sadly, Zvezda did not include any raised vortex generators on the wing, and there was no way to quickly reproduce them. I decided to only replicate the stains left behind them, because they were very prominent. I did this again with the Tamiya weathering set and the pointy rubber pencils. To create a realistic pattern, I measured the spacing and the number of generators. The whole weathering process took quite some time, although I really tried to not overdo it. For longer streaks I used oil paint. You need quite a few applications, but the results are so different compared to the Tamiya powder. For the main wheel wells I went for a wash with Tamiya accent panel line color. I did not wipe it off, so it looks messy. Normally all wheel wells look messy, because there is so much grease everywhere. I wanted to highlight some of the scratch-built areas and I am quite happy with the results. The unusual stabilizer mounting was a bit tricky. Due to the amount of paint, the fit was very tight. I tried to sand some paint of the stabs and it worked, but still it was not easy to get them into those pockets. I used normal Tamiya cement. I must say the engine fit was excellent, by far one of the best fits between an engine and wing that I have ever seen. I used the good old trusty Revel needle glue. As you can see, I prepared some beacon lights. Some time ago I scratched them and made several copies. You might see them on models from aileron videos as well sometime. I used some Tamiya tape to mark the center of the fuselage. That is quite some work for a light or an antenna, but it is worth it. I used white glue. It is transparent when it is dry and you can move the object a bit, which you can't when you use super glue. Also, there is no fogging. Fit of the gear doors was excellent as well, and I could proceed to the main landing gear attachment. It is a little bit tricky, but with a calm hand no problem. I always do a dry fit before I use glue. Surprisingly, the nose gear was problematic. It's a small area and I had to try many times until I got it straight. Zvezda does not care about the angle of the nose gear doors. They neither did on their A320 series. If you check pictures, you see that the doors have quite an angle. For gluing the tires, I used white glue again. Since all tires have a tiny flat spot, I wanted to have a few seconds to orientate them before they stick to the model. It worked well, and suddenly the aircraft came to life. I glued all the antennas. By the way, did you notice the lower VHF antenna? LL made my life hard by just giving it 2 red stripes. Had to paint them, but hey, everything has to be done for a good replica. I cut an arrow to indicate the center again. Next, and one of the most important advanced details, are the static discharges. I have seen many different materials on many models and I never found it good looking. Wire is way too stiff, so no option at all, same for photo etch parts. I tried toothbrushes, but they are not suitable for this scale, they look too thick and unrealistic. I also tried molten plastic sprue, which has a good thickness, but it is very brittle and whenever you accidentally touch it, it breaks. I came to the conclusion that paintbrush hair is the perfect solution. The true to scale diameter and high flexibility gives some realism. I cut the hair from the brush and sorted every single one on masking tape. This step is important. I want all of them to have the same length, so they must be straight. Once all are aligned, I fix them with the top masking tape and cut them. Then they get some black paint and then they are ready to use. To attach them, I again measured the spacing. So now they are all symmetrical and look like on the real thing. So we are approaching the finish line. These small things are angle of attack sensors. I used Tamiya plastic paper 0.1 mm and cut them out with a knife. They are painted in dark metal and applied with super glue. For wipers and pitot tubes, I choose authentic Airliner parts and decals. We are done. Thank you for following this build on a 6-month journey. I hope you enjoyed the build, and who knows, maybe there will be another work in progress series at some point. Thanks for watching and happy modeling.